Today's episode is brought to you by Visible.
Hi guys, it's Friday. Welcome to SJU. I'm your host Joe Starr, and I always forget that we have a sponsorship pre-roll at the beginning of the thing. I just started talking to no one.
It was not a talk. It was a, I don't know what that was.
It was a guttural.
I sucked it all back because I only have one intro per day in me. So I was like, hey, that was that.
Wow.
Yeah, it was good.
Killing it.
Dan's here, Billy's here, Roxy's here. She's Oreo powered for the day.
You guys warned me, but there's so much Oreo in my mouth right now that and that pre-noon Oreo life.
Well, Roxy had Oreos for breakfast. Dan, what'd you have for breakfast?
I had a half of a package of Belvita. Pumpkin spice Belvita.
All right.
Belvita. I think you said Velveeta.
No, this is the second time this has happened on the air.
That is so
Belvita. They're little like crackers.
They're really good.
They're very, very delicious.
I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
I thought you had also mispronounced Velveeta.
And I would usually have a whole package, but I'm watching my calories, so I had a half a
Same.
package.
Right on.
You know what?
Crushing that.
Oreos. You had mini Oreos, not the big
Yeah,
ones.
they were small
Exactly.
Oreos.
And I only had one bag, which is very different than my normal 6 bag.
My mental image of your breakfast, as soon as it was corrected from Velveeta to Belvita, completely changed. Because Velveeta was definitely you, just like.
It was just sad melted cheese over your hand.
No, that's dinner.
Just with a big Mida cheese.
Yeah.
Billy, breakfast?
I had one of our Cliff Bars. That's in the. It's in our closet.
Well done.
Oh, I went to grab that at first.
And then you saw the
You
Oreos.
saw the Oreos.
Yeah.
I have not eaten because I
choice.
chose to sleep in today. And I have low blood sugar, and I'm going to get angry in about 15 minutes. Guys,
I offered you Oreos.
that would have been very bad. Guys, today we're talking about Captain Marvel box office. How big will it open? And then we're going to get into some fan questions, because it's Fan Friday. So let's talk Captain Marvel. Disney, this is via Deadline. Disney is reporting that Captain Marvel flew to 20.7 million last night from shows that started at 6 p.m. Among Thursday Marvel previews, that is the 5th best after Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Age of Ultron, Black Panther, and Captain America Civil War, which rounds up the pack at $25 million. Men overall led females last night, 60% to 40%. It'll be interesting to see if that changes over the weekend. Captain Marvel pulled in a 77% general audience, 9% parents, and 4% kids. Kids under 12 gave the female superhero 5 stars, with girls giving the pick 100% and boys 91%. I want to meet the picky-ass little boys who are like, a low A.
I don't think I even
That
knew.
would have been me.
I don't think I knew you could dislike a movie until I was like 14. I was like, oh, there's bad ones?
Yeah, I just like the idea of like a 10-year-old boy that's like, well, yeah, that would absolutely would have been
that was me as a child. I am that 9% that would have come out. It's just like it's like
I recommend it, but
I like the action, but I think the story structure could have been stronger.
Were you that with everything or just movies? Like, were you picky about food?
The pickiest thing in the world. If you think I'm picky about movies, you should see how picky I am about food. It's night and day.
I've eaten with you, I know.
Yeah.
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 In the order of demo draw last night, men 25 and up led at 37%, followed by men under 25 at 23%. This is people who came out to see the movie. Women over 25 and women was at 21%. Women under 25 at 18%. Women love the pick better than guys, 91% to 82%. What will we do? With females over 25 bestowing the best grades from adults on Carol Danvers at 96% positive. So a solid B to an A from everybody. That still gets you your degree. Well done, Captain Marvel. You graduated. Captain Marvel looks to earn north of $130 million. Should it follow a similar trajectory to that of Suicide Squad, which made $20.5 million in previews? Just numbers. Just throwing numbers at you, and then I'm going to make Dan explain to you what they mean.
4, 8, 16, 22.
Suicide Squad had a $64.8 million first day and a $133.6 million weekend. Spring breaks are starting up. That could hit it. K through 12. Colleges are off today. Numbers are expected to grow respectively based on that 18% and 33% by
Spring break's
Monday.
already starting?
Spring break.
Yeah,
What month are we in?
early March.
I thought it was like
Already.
usually around like Easter. No?
It depends. This is
Spring break's in February, right?
Easter's coming. I saw Reese's eggs at the grocery store, so I think Easter's coming too.
No, I think my spring break was in February.
No.
my spring break was in.
I know it's not spring,
my
but-
college spring break was usually in early March because we
End of
ended
February,
a little
early
sooner.
March.
So yeah, it was early March. I don't remember it being in February, but it's
Didn't
definitely
Ash
early
Wednesday
March.
We're saying the same thing, February.
You just got back by February, though. You were only there for like a few weeks, and then you're back to vacation.
You know what? I know what happened. You're right. I can explain, but you're right.
Okay.
Well, now I want to hear this. I want to hear the Oreo logic.
In my pre-college, you went on February and April break. You had a week in February, a week in April, and then when I was older, you had 2 weeks or a week and a half in March or whatever. Yeah.
There you go.
I wanted a
It
February
wasn't
break
that
in
important,
college.
but I was like, I know I was on vacation in February.
I mean, I took kind of whatever breaks I wanted in
I was
college
gonna
because
say, yeah,
I was
just
a
like-
bad student.
Just didn't go.
Dan,
Yes.
I just said so many numbers.
You did. That was a lot of
Explain them.
numbers. Well, I mean, I think the numbers themselves are fairly self-explanatory. It's all you can. We're at the point now where we can narrow the field a little bit because we have some actual hard numbers to go on. The Suicide Squad comparison is not 1-to-1. Suicide Squad was a summer release. It's not summer, even though there are some spring breaks. And so the audience is going to change a little bit. Plus, it's not the same movie. It's a different movie. It's a different tone. It's a different everything else. It's a couple years later. There have been more superhero movies, but it looks like we are. If it follows the course of a normal Marvel movie, we're looking at an opening weekend around 130. Could go a little higher, maybe a little bit lower, which would put it in the top 10 of Marvel opening weekends, right around less than Guardians of the Galaxy 2, right around Iron Man 2, Thor Ragnarok territory, if it holds, if it makes around 130. So that's where we are, but this is the kind of thing that, as you said, Black Panther opened to $25 million, which was very close to this, and ended up doing $200 million over opening weekend because it just had a massive surge that you can't predict that. You can't predict how many more people are going to go to a movie. You can maybe kind of predict how many fewer people might go. So
I do not think that's what's going to happen with Captain Marvel. I know that's not what you're saying, but I don't think this is going to get the Black Panther treatment.
No, it's not. It was really just an example of saying, Black Panther opened to similar numbers and ended up going vastly over, meaning that there's still a lot of room where it can land up and down. It just depends on. I'm going to be very interested and excited to see what the cinema score is tonight, because that's an actual audience that they catch in a theater that they know has seen the movie, has definitely seen the movie because they're walking out of it, and that's a great measure of an opening night audience's thoughts in the film, which is usually a good indicator of what an opening weekend audience is going to think of the film. Opening weekend, not in general, but it's a snapshot of opening night.
Right.
Well, at this point, guys, here's my question to the table. At what point can you consider a Marvel movie a failure at this point? They all make a ton of money. They all average around it was fine to it was great. What is now the metric for a successful Marvel movie?
I don't think Marvel necessarily, but for a movie, if you're losing money, that's what a failure is, right? I mean, we've, as society, made it into a million other things when we call things failures, flops. Critically speaking, it's different than what the studios are looking for. If you're losing money, it's a failure. If you're making money, it's a success. Now, how big of a success is what I think you're talking about with Marvel. The failure in comparison to the other movies.
Sure.
I don't know. Dan, what is the low, off the top of your head, you might not know, but what is the lowest that a Marvel movie opening weekend?
Maybe Hulk?
Yeah, right around the Hulk, First Avenger range. Phase 1, pre-Avengers is obviously if a movie opened up, I think I have that window open. Now, if a movie opened around those numbers, that's sort of when some eyebrows would be raised. But they don't have I'm just trying to think, they don't have a flat-out just financial absolute failure on the books. There's some movies that were disappointing. Incredible Hulk, $55 million. First Avenger, $57 million. Thor. And then Ant-Man and the Wasp, $75 million. Which was considered to be a pretty low, not low, but a more moderate success than the rest. I mean, I think that's the closest we've had is people looked at Ant-Man and the Wasp and they're like, well, it made money, but did it make enough money to continue that particular franchise? That's the question. But a flop would be it's bad opening, lost money, solo type deal.
Right. Billy?
Yeah.
Thoughts? I just thinking. I remember last year when Infinity War was coming out, the week before we had done like the watch through, and Black Panther was still in theaters, and we went and saw it, and it was packed, and that was 2 months after it came out. This one is going to be like bumping right up against Infinity War. I wonder if that will have any impact at all, or if this will not have the legs, like you said, of a Black Panther, and by that point the run will be pretty much.
So you're saying it's sort of bumping onto Infinity War?
It's just like it's so close to Endgame that it's.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, whereas like Black Panther had a couple months, and it was still drawing huge audiences even a week before Infinity War. Like, I wonder if. I wonder if actually Endgame this will probably still be in theaters when Endgame comes out too. Like, I wonder if this will give it, if that'll give it the rub a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the reviews, they're definitely not as enthusiastic. Audience, I don't know. I looked at the audience review on Rotten Tomatoes is a mess. It's an absolute mess.
Yeah.
Doesn't hold up in
honestly,
court.
There's no point in looking at it.
So let's see what that number looks like after a few more days, when perhaps some more people that have seen the film can go in and rate it. Not that nobody who has seen the film doesn't like it, or that nobody who's seen the film hasn't rated it on Rotten Tomatoes. However, much like Gotti, I would take those numbers to court, and I don't think that they would hold up under scrutiny. Yeah. But I don't. It's not going to have the legs of Black Panther, and honestly, I don't know if it's going to be in a lot of theaters in 7 weeks ish when Endgame comes out, just because there's a lot of movies between here and there, and I just think that I don't think it's not going to be a failure, but it's not going to have the legs of a Black Panther. Black Panther was a cultural phenomenon. It is so rare for any movie to still be in theaters in May that came out in February, so I would not expect that kind of a tale for this film.
What is the story now because the role of movie Twitter now is to look at movies and say, oh, well, Shazam, Infinity War did these numbers, Captain Marvel only did these numbers, therefore, because everything has to succeed or fail or be ranked or something like that, it's a failure. Like, a narrative has to be assigned to these movies. It's what the trades do. It's what social media does. So I guess the bigger question for me that's interesting to me is, like, what's the value of a narrative to Captain Marvel? Like, it didn't top Infinity War, so it's a flop.
That's a ridiculous standard. No, almost no Marvel movie topped Infinity War. So are they flops too? I'm
sort of talking, and I'm being hyperbolic, but.
I don't know, because I think the narrative now becomes, depending on this performance, it's like the narrative will be like, can Captain Marvel really anchor the MCU moving forward? And somehow, like people who misuse Bible verses, all of this data will somehow either point to their thesis saying, yes, Captain Marvel will usher in the second coming of MCU, or jump off after Endgame, because this is where it's going.
Sure. Okay, that's an interesting point.
Usher in the second coming.
Yeah. Well,
I have no idea.
That's an interesting.
I'm just throwing my hopes out there. I mean, I love Spidey. I love Captain Marvel. I love Black Panther. I'm ready. I'm set. I'm ready to go with the second wave.
Yeah, and the interesting thing to me is, even in comics, Carol Danvers' solo series aren't like anchoring the Marvel universe, but her role in ensemble books brings eyes on those books. So is it on the big screen as on the small page on the panel that Carol Danvers will be this like really amazing like ensemble piece and this like really important puzzle piece to the Avengers? I'm curious to see that.
I don't know.
I mean, as far as narratives go, on social media, I would say 60% of it has already been written by one side or the other, and has been for weeks.
Sure.
Pro and con.
Sure.
There are people who were convinced that the movie was terrible before it came out, and will spend every piece of data to back up that conclusion. And there were people, I think, that decided many, many weeks ago that even though it may be a flawed film, that they were going to support it no matter what. And that data will be spun to advance that narrative. I mean, that's the thing, is what's the narrative on Captain Marvel? The answer is it hasn't been written yet, because it literally opened today. There is no actual fact-based narrative yet on Captain Marvel because we don't have enough information. We don't know what a huge swath of the audience thinks, and we don't know what the opening number is.
But I will say these numbers were kind of surprising to me because of how negative walking out of the screening. I happen to love this movie, but the reaction when I walked out of the screening I went to was very split. Was right down the middle, 50-50. So these numbers kind of surprised me, especially from the women, because a lot of the women I screened the movie with really didn't like the movie.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And again, this is one screening. One screening, one group of people. So I was excited to see these numbers and a little surprised.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is also an opening night audience.
Yeah.
The most energized, most excited, most motivated crowd, public general audience that you're going to have are the ones that go on opening night. So I think that, again, opening night numbers are very, they're a signpost as to the way things that might go, but it is a piece of the puzzle, but it is not the whole puzzle, because there's a lot to be written yet.
Yeah, you can't base the battle on your Vanguard. Yeah.
Exactly. Like people that go tonight, people that go on Saturday, people that go the second weekend. How many people go back? How many people go for the first time? There's always a rush to take the one bit of information that you have and write the entire, as you were saying, the entire narrative based on this one thing. And that's not how it works generally, unless it's an outright bomb that nobody goes to see on the first weekend, and then you're like, well, okay. But yeah, these are long play things, but we don't live in a long play society. We live
right now.
We live in a right now society.
Yeah. As the one person at this table that has not seen the movie, I've done my best, Billy, to get us as close to 20 minutes as possible talking about Captain Marvel.
Nailed it. Call it a day.
Hey, you guys want to get in some fan questions?
Sure.
Get them in.
How's everything going?
I'm assuming he's making the same face right now.
We have no idea. Spencer, rightfully so, and better than anyone else in this office, is able to completely separate himself from being here when he's not here. And good for him. I wish I had that kind of self-discipline. So we're thinking about you, Spenny. I'm sure everything's great. Best of the family.
And I'm sure
you're doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing by not even watching this right now.
Somebody clip that moment out and send it to him.
Yeah. And then he will also not watch that.
He'll open it the first day he's back.
Yeah.
Visual asked if there was an Oscar for the best line in any Hollywood movie, which lines take that prize home?
Jeez.
Okay, there was a... Damn it, I almost want to look it up because I can't remember the exact wording.
Take a minute to look it up.
You might know it because it was so off-putting from Halloween last year, and I loved it so much because I was like, what movie am I watching? The dad makes the weirdest penis
I've
joke.
got peanut butter on my penis.
Yeah.
I looked at my wife and I was like, yeah, we're buying this on Blu-ray.
Just for that.
Yeah, I was like, this is the weirdest line I've ever heard in a movie.
I can't believe that was your poll just now.
Oh, that was definitely my poll.
I was thinking like, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
That gets Oscar.
You have peanut butter on your penis.
Yeah.
And
me personally,
I had Oreos for breakfast, so who am I to talk?
I just remember I was like, there's no reason for this, but it's here. And I love it, and I want to single that out as a moment in that film that's like just one of the random question marks of that movie that just makes it great for me. That and the cowboy hat.
Yeah,
it's just a weird movie.
Well, I wonder, what do you guys think is the most famous line of any movie of all time?
I mean, I think it changes generationally.
Right.
You know, like Schwarzenegger saying like "I'll be back" was like huge when I was 20 years ago, but now does it have that kind of resonance to a modern audience that's younger than we are?
15-year-old or a 16-year-old?
Probably not as much.
Like I feel like people say "I'm your father." Well, they misquote it, but it's like even people who maybe have never even seen Star Wars
still know.
Yeah.
It's like a spoiler you could never get away from. I wonder if the next generation will be able to like not know what that means.
It is kind of funny when people do like the general public misquotes things. The other day I was thinking paint me like one of your French girls, and then I was watching and it's draw me. And I was like, we did that.
We did it. No one else to blame but us.
Yeah. we did screw that one up. Well, it's like we keep calling it the DCEU, and DC's like,
we did that.
That's never been what it's called.
Like,
Well, they should come up with a name, and then we'll call it something
And
different.
I feel like we came up with a good one yesterday with
Was it Worlds of DCEU tomorrow, the game, the ride, the Snyder Cut?
Yeah, is what I feel like it should be called.
that.
I feel like I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse. Is even if you don't know it's attached to The Godfather, like you get that as a reference and you know what it means and you know its context, even though you don't necessarily know that it's from The Godfather.
Yeah.
That's
It's
one.
weird, like best line is like, because there's this iconic line, which is maybe not the best line in the movie, but the one that took off, that into the public consciousness. So would that win, or would it be like an actual more obscure line that's just a great piece of writing? I think that there are 50 amazing lines in Casablanca. 10 of them are famous, and the other 40 are equally great, but because of context or whatever else, they're not the ones that are quoted the most. So.
Yeah. I mean, every line in Big Trouble in Little China could win this award. Literally just every
Not every
piece.
line.
Every line of that. It's
But I might give it to Nobody's Perfect from Some Like It Hot,
that's a good line.
which is a great line and a great closer for the end of that film.
Yeah, I would. SNL just ruined a really great line with a actually really good sketch this past weekend. They did their Turner Classic Movies thing with and they did of course there's the iconic line like, you know how to whistle, don't you? Just put your lips together and blow. And then they did a bit where it was like but there's actually there's an extended scene, and we just unearthed it, and they do a great bit with Kate McKinnon where she's like, just put your lips together and blow. And then like it just goes on from there. She doesn't know how to whistle. It was very funny.
I struggle with
you should watch
whistling
that.
as well. Somebody told me the other day to make a cue with my mouth.
How do you
Let's,
cue?
all right,
Cue?
we're abandoning it. We're going to teach you to whistle right now. Go.
You can't laugh and whistle at the
Nope,
end.
all right, well, there you go.
Yeah.
I struggle
good.
with it. I can do sometimes. That's
It's a
about
low
as much as I
whistle.
can
It's like
do.
the wind in the forest.
Yeah, it's like that. You were kind of doing it like you don't want someone else to know that you're whistling to someone, so it's like a little low key
They
whistle.
said make a cue. I don't get it.
What part is supposed to be the?
How do you make it
Yeah,
cute?
Yeah.
With your tongue?
I don't. I fought with them, and now I can't remember who it was, but we fought for like an hour about it.
I feel like now I'm
Is
gonna
that
have
like a Sylvester Stallone place? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird.
I don't know, but that's a great. It ain't about how hard you get hit. That's a great
That's
one
a
too.
good line. That's a really good line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, now I'm just next time I whistle, I'm gonna have make a cue in my head, and it's gonna make me not be able to whistle.
Cue.
Cue.
You guys can all do it. Oh damn it.
This
I bet
next
JT
question.
can't whistle. I feel better now.
JT, can you whistle? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Not since I lost my tooth.
Not since
No,
I lost
yeah.
the tooth.
Make me feel bad about it, bro.
Someday, once again.
Stupid scooters. This question is from Thor Buttock.
I'm just picturing JT trying to whistle and the tooth popping out.
That's not how he lost his tooth.
He whistled so hard.
He whistled so hard he lost a tooth. That'd be amazing.
Sorry,
Projectile.
JT. I'm sorry.
I bet it could happen. One time my brother sneezed so hard he broke 2 ribs.
What?
Ouch.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
yeah, heck of a sneeze.
Are making a joke or no?
No, that's a real thing.
Oh.
I wonder if you could whistle so hard a tooth would come out. Let us know in the comments.
I don't.
Do you know any freakish dentistry stories? Let us
All
know
you
below.
periodontists that are watching this
Yeah.
right now.
Oh, I heard it. That was good. That was good.
So guys, can we get serious and talk about Thor buttocks?
Yeah.
Yes,
question.
please.
There are many great performances in bad movies. But what are some movies you think are great despite the fact that you think one or more of the main cast members' performances are subpar?
Wow.
I'm with Roth, where I think, first of all, you have to divorce it from the other two. But I think Godfather 3 is actually a pretty good movie, but Sofia Coppola just tanks it. She tanks it hard.
I agree. I
Yeah.
think The Godfather 3 committed the sin of being an average movie and a great trilogy, but I will agree that Sofia Coppola is
Her
not
performance
good
is
in that
horrible.
movie. It is
in
awful.
that. Yeah.
It did not help the movie, and I think that's one of the main reasons why it has such a legacy of being a terrible film is that it is a pretty bad performance inside a
average
Okay,
film.
pretty good movie.
If that had come out by itself, wasn't called Godfather that year, you'd be like, that was a good one. Yeah.
It's like the Da Vinci Code without the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah, without the code. I mean, most of my favorite movies from the 80s fall into this. I think Bloodsport is dope, and Jean-Claude Van Damme is a horrible actor, but it doesn't matter because Bloodsport is awesome. In fact, everyone's performance in that movie, maybe except for Forrest Whitaker and Ogre from Revenge of the Nerds, is a terrible performance. Like when he's like, let me take that, I'll snatch that coin out of your hand, and the girl goes with me. And like, he snatches the coin, and just the guy looks down at the coin and goes, and just gives the worst reaction face. But it doesn't matter to me because Bloodsport is a fantastic movie.
I feel like performance is my number one thing. So that I don't know if I have any movies that I think are great with a horrible performance. I don't know.
It just tanks it for you.
Well, that's where I'm trained. That's my background. You know, I've been performing. That's what I've been doing since I was 2. So, like, technically speaking, that's where my eye goes all the time. And so if somebody's just butchering it, which is, of course, subjective
Sure.
and not objective, then I look at that. So I don't know if walking away from maybe a small role, maybe like an extra in the background who's looking for attention, but I don't think any of the main characters having a horrible performance, and then I walk away and I'm like, that movie was great.
Except for...
This is a question I've been asking myself for 22 years, and perhaps you all can weigh in on this and help me, because I have yet to reach a conclusion.
Okay.
In Titanic, is Billy Zane great? Or is he terrible? Because every time I watch the movie, I go back and forth on, is he a great classical scenery-chewing villain in that film, or is he really bad in that movie?
No, I think he's great.
Is he great? Is he
Yeah,
great?
I think he's great.
I have a child.
It's a fine line. It's a fine line, and every time I watch it, I go on the other side. One time I watch it, and I'm just like, oh, he's the perfect like 1920s like classical villain, and then I watch it again, I'm like, he's really not good in this movie, and I cannot settle on one. I'm going to go great, I guess.
I think he's great.
But it's such a it's some lines are just like, really?
But also, it's very like Titanic, which I don't know why there was like a backlash. There probably still is, and people are like, it's terrible. It's, I think, a great movie, and then it has that 2-minute part where it just decides to become True Lies for a second, and he's running around in slow motion just shooting. I'm like, what movie did this become for just a second?
For just a minute.
And then it just goes back. Yeah, but again, no one could have pulled that off except the Zane.
Is it the eyeliner getting in the way of his delivery?
I don't know what it is. It's
Excuse me,
something about
guyliner.
The guy liner? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I don't know. It's just this weird thing where I flip-flop on it every time. I really do. Every time I see the movie, I flip-flop. And I will also say, while we're on the James Cameron mode, that while Bill Paxton has many of the most quotable lines in Aliens, I don't think he's particularly good in that movie. He's in a different movie.
He kind of is.
He's in a different movie than everyone else in the movie. Like,
You're
everyone
right.
else is like in a sci-fi action movie. He's like, whoa, what's going on here?
You're right. I love him in that movie.
I love him in that movie. I love the lines. He's quotable, but he is on a different planet from everybody else in Aliens, and it takes me out of the movie a little bit every once in a while.
Rugged English asked, who do you want to see a sports biopic about? The only one I want to see is Vince McMahon, not produced by Vince McMahon. He's a crazy person.
That would be amazing.
There's a lot of dirt. There's a lot of weirdness. There's a lot of brilliance.
I mean, he'll definitely be in the Hulk one.
Yeah, but it's that Queen issue. Like I don't want them involved. I just want someone to take an honest look at this life and present it on screen. I don't want the like. I got to put my own narrative on screen. That's the one that I want.
I would say Barry Bonds, and I would call it 756 with a little asterisk, and it would just be all about. I mean, Barry Bonds is such a D-bag, but also just probably the most beautiful swing in baseball I've ever seen. But I would love to see how an actor how they would like digitally CGI like expand his head if they started from like Pittsburgh Pirates 80s Barry's
You'd want to like Captain America First Avenger it, where like it starts off with this like scrawny guy, and then by the end he's like Barry Bonds.
He got so big.
He did.
His head was ridiculous. I thought it was gonna like Violet Beauregard and Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. I thought it was gonna pop. But I would definitely do one about Barry Bonds.
Rocks.
And you could just tie it into the whole baseball steroids.
Yeah, I think that's your framing device
Right.
around that bigger story.
They had a book about it. It was all about Balco and that whole industry and everything. But yeah.
Oh, 5 million. Like, this is I love sports biopics, and I love this genre. One of them, I know this is two people, but a Venus and Serena Williams doc or biopic would be kind of cool.
Not focusing on their dad.
No.
Did you not hear that story this
No,
week?
I did.
We didn't talk about it on the show, did we?
No.
Oh, ugh, Will Smith, is going to play their dad.
I'm sure their dad sure made them get up a lot of mornings, but great. But I really would rather just see a biopic about them at this point.
Yeah, just about them. And also, I thought this when it came out, but I would like to see a Nancy Kerrigan biopic as opposed to I, Tonya, which that movie was interesting and there were great parts about it, but if we're going to give one of them a biopic, I'd like to see Nancy's.
Me, Nancy.
Yeah.
I, Tanya. Me, Nancy.
That would be the best.
Totally.
I would watch Me, Nancy.
I would absolutely watch Me, Nancy.
That's right.
The only other thing that comes to mind that I think would be cool is this guy Demora, who was the choreographer and stand-in for Mr. Miyagi in Karate Kid. He's a straight-up like immigrant, comes to the country and introduces something new to an area. Like he's the guy that introduced karate to Southern California, and he's still around and kicking and doing stuff today. So I think
What's his
that his name's Demora, and I think that would be a cool thing. Like, because he's sort of Americanized what karate is, like that '80s Karate Kid sort of type. He's the guy that pretty much brought it over. So I think that could be a cool biopic too.
I'd like to see, but we can't do it for like another 10 to 15 years, but because the story's still not been written. But I find Tiger Woods fascinating because
that rise and fall.
Here is this phenomenon who came through and just blew the doors off, and then for 10 years was unquestionably going to be the greatest person who ever played the game of golf. Case closed. It's only a matter of time. And then, and this is the thing we have to wait for, is number one, to see if it might end. It could end on this mind-blowing career comeback, which is looking less and less likely as the years go on, but the potential is there. Or it could be the story about this guy who's just like, he was the best, he was the greatest of all time, end of story. And then through a combination of personal issues and his body just completely betraying him and letting him down, he fell off a cliff seemingly overnight. Like, that is a fascinating story, but it's not done yet.
Also, some crazy personal things going on in that situation.
Yeah.
Right. It was like everything just seemed to happen all at one time. How are they linked? These are the things that we don't know. But like I've like when he was playing, I would watch. If it was the Masters or whatever, and Tiger was just playing, like I would watch it. I was glued to the television. And I think that golf is lesser for him, having been in a decline, because there has been really no massive superstar in the world of the men's PGA that could fill that void. It kind of went back to what it was before, which is like there's a lot of great players and they all sort of trade off things. But I'm so fascinated by him and his story and what's going to happen next. I'd love to see that.
That commercial was, I still, like, I didn't quite know the whole story, but I remember that commercial was like, whether you think he's a piece of shit or not, it was the most evocative.
Yeah.
Just him just staring at the camera with that apology, kind of. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Like so many athletes have had the wildest lives. Mm-hmm. Now you got me on the wrestling train too. I'm just thinking there's tons of them. I mean, China.
Yeah.
And her story.
Yeah. All the wrestling biopics are going to be sad.
Yeah. Or not though. Like some of them are still, like Dan said, being written.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
True. You know what else is still being written?
What's that?
This show. I don't know how to end the show.
Good point.
Guys, check out yesterday's movie fights. It got weird. It got a little wild.
Who was on it?
It was fun. It was Iffy, Markia, and Cameron Rice. And it was...
Ooh, great.
Yeah, they argued some very important cinematic questions. Make sure you go check it out.
The drill means it's time to go.
Didn't you think it was somebody's phone's buzzing for a quick second?
I'm going to feel really dumb if the answer is no, but I think you guys have a spoiler review.
We do indeed.
Captain Marvel dropping.
Roth and I have a spoiler review that will be out tomorrow morning, right, Ryan? Yes, tomorrow morning.
Great.
So check that out after you check out Captain Marvel.
Well, guys, enjoy your weekends. We'll be here Monday. The drill will be here Monday. Will you? See you guys later.
Thank you to Visible, the future of phone service, for sponsoring this episode.